Right, so the first big content update drop thing of Marvel's Avengers is finally here. It's been out for like a few days now. I think everyone who is going to play it has already beaten it, which, you know, is neither here nor there. I'll get into that later, but what I wanted to do for today's video is I wanted to have a big, I wanted to have a video where I expressed some of the pros and the cons. So I'm going to list them out. I've got 3 things I want to talk about that this update did really well. And I'm going to talk about 3 things that this update didn't do as well, or things that the next update needs to kind of take on board going forward. But I want to say, starting off the bat, the update goes and takes this game in the right direction. I don't think it's gonna bring everyone back. I don't think it's going to save the game as like a whole, but it does show that the developers know what they're doing, and they know how to make good characters. And that's going to be my first good point. My first pro comes to Kate Bishop herself. Kate Bishop, the new playable character, is a really good playable character. She's a really nice addition to the roster. She's really fun to play. And yeah, they've managed to make a character that I thought, she's not really going to be that useful, that fun. She's just going to be Hawkeye, but not Hawkeye. But no, they've managed to make her own character, and they've managed to make her interesting in the scope of the story, and they've made her interesting as a playable character, and they've made her fun. The second pro that I want to bring out is the actual story itself, and the story content, and how it goes into the actual story of the game, and how it leads into what they're going to be doing with this game going forward, and how that may lead into the next update and previous updates and updates to come in the future, like next year. And it looks really promising. The update, the actual story stuff itself, nothing big or bombastic happens until like right at the end. But even that is kind of like, it's kind of a tease of stuff that's more interesting to come. But still, it reveals a really interesting thing to do with Nick Fury. It reveals a really interesting thing to do with certain villains that they're gonna be putting into the game. It reveals a lot of cool stuff that they will be doing. But yeah, the actual story content here is really good. It's really well written. It's really well voiced. It's really like fun, engaging story, and it really does take the game in a completely different direction than the Miss Marvel stuff did and the base game did. Which leads me on to my final good thing. They've rebalanced some of the actual content. Some of the content has actually changed. So instead of like the vaults, for example, instead of it just being one level, and you go through that one level, the one like level where it's all just one solid like level. I know, take a drink every time I say level, but it's that one solid platform, and you have to get the 5 things that are on the one story. Instead, it's like a 3-story thing, and it utilizes more of like the different platforming styles of each character, and that's the kind of stuff that I really liked, and I would like more of that kind of stuff going forward. I would have liked them to introduce some newer types of content. But the fact that they're changing stuff up to make it more interesting and to make it look more, or to make it feel more like it's catering to each Avengers abilities, that's really cool, and it's a really nice step in the right direction. Which leads me on to my first con of the update itself. There's just not enough changes. There's not enough new stuff. The biggest new thing that we have is we have a new villain. We have the Super Adaptoid, and my cons with that are gonna come soon. But at least it's something new. It's something new. It's something like we have a new slot filled for the rotating like villain sectors. So that's a good thing, but that's the only thing we have. Everything else, like even the missions in the story, are different variations of mission types we have in the game. And the fact that we were waiting, like, I get COVID is a thing, I get that's a totally valid reason to delay stuff. If you can't get stuff done by the strict deadline, with also a global pandemic, you know, meaning that you can't work as efficiently as you would want to, that kind of is a valid point to bring up. Like, if you're working from a hotel room, obviously you're not going to have the stuff as you would when you're working from your actual studio, or you're working from the actual main Square Enix or Crystal Dynamics building. And that I totally understand. But it's like all they needed to do was program one new game mode or one new level type in this that kind of had something to do with how the characters perform or how they play, or just something to change up the game and the grind at some point, or a new piece of end game content, because right now all we have are like the Mega Hives and the Tachyon Rifts and the Hero Gauntlets, and they're just like recycled versions of the other levels that you've done before. And then you've got some like higher tier things of levels that you've already completed, which are the exact same cutscenes, the exact same level, essentially, just with higher level enemies, which I think is the laziest of lazy, to be honest. And that kind of needs to be taken out and like replace those with like different content, like new content, or at least like villain sectors. Like new villain sectors. I'd like to be able to fight a boss, to have like a daily boss that you didn't have to go to one of the that you didn't have to go to a certain person to pick up for that. I'd like it to be like its own thing on the war table ready. But that's just a nitpick, and that's just a gripe. But I'd like to see more content, and I feel like we're going to get that in the next update. It's just we're gonna have to wait for the next update to drop for like new fresh content to do, and that's sad. But it's also giving us something to wait for. But also we've been waiting a long time for like some decent stuff to get ourselves into and something to grind for. Like the grind right now is to get everyone to level 50. Once everyone's at level 50, you're going to be replaying the stuff that you were already doing. And I kind of like how each character has an iconic mission to get their iconic uniform. I'd kind of like stuff like that once you hit level 50 as well. Like, you have another set of iconic missions to do when you hit level 50 with that character. and like those will be like really hard challenges to do with every member of your every like Avenger. Like Captain America has like a super hard boss to fight, like a super hard version of Taskmaster to fight. Hulk will have a super hard version of Abomination to fight, and he'll have like a load of levels that lead up to that. Black Widow as well will have a load of levels leading up to a certain like fight. Kate Bishop will have a certain amount of levels to lead up to a big fight at the end. I'd love stuff like that to happen as well. It's just we don't have that at the end. We don't have like stuff that will guaranteed give you this one really cool thing. It's all just luck based, and that's kind of annoying. The next con that I have is just to do with the time that it takes to beat the story content. I managed to beat it in the space of 2.5 streams. No, 2 hour streams. So it took just over 4 hours to beat all of the like story stuff, to get all of Kate Bishop's new story content beaten. I haven't done her iconic mission yet. That could take a lot longer. If it's the same length as any of the other characters' iconic missions, probably won't be, but it still will get me a level 50 Kate Bishop by the end of it, which is kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, I would have liked it to be a bit longer, but I guess that goes down to the problem of the base game wasn't that long itself. Like, even with the new Kate Bishop stuff, you can get the base game and the Kate Bishop stuff done in under 20 hours. But the game is an RPG. Most RPG games can be done within 25, sometimes even 40 hours. And this is an RPG with 6, now 7 characters to level up to level 50 and to get built. You won't get every character built. You won't get any character built fully by the end of the main story. And by the end of Kate's mission, I had at level 27 and a power level of like 23. Which, it's out of a possible 150. And a possible level cap of 50. Which is kind of, not great. But that being said, my Thor, who I've had from the beginning, is only at level 24, which is really annoying. But yeah, I love all of the story stuff. The story stuff in this game is the best stuff in the game, but there's just not enough of it. It's not long enough, and that's my biggest flaw with this. And my final flaw is just the Super Adaptoid itself. The biggest defense that I've heard for putting the Super Adaptoid in the game is it works for the story for the story reasons. You do already fight Adaptoids, and now you've got the Super Adaptoid in the game, and it makes sense for that reason, and that reason alone. But the thing is, the Super Adaptoid is the only new villain that they put in the game, and so many people come to the defense of it's a character from the comics. Yes, that is a true statement, but the Super Adaptoid is as much of a character as Doomsday is. The Super Adaptoid is as much of a character as Amazo is. You wouldn't put Amazo in a game, would you? Unless if that game is a mobile one. My main point to this is the Super Adaptoid is a cool fight, but it's another big robot. And so many of the bosses are big robots. The only boss fights that aren't are Taskmaster and Abomination. I don't even include the Super Adaptoid as an actual like comic book based boss fight, because it's a completely different design. It just looks like the regular adaptoids that you've been fighting, but with a hammer and with Cap's shield. That is it. That is all you have. And yes, it uses the abilities of the Avengers that you have, minus Kate. But also what? But also that doesn't mean anything when you can get him beaten in 30 seconds. I beat the Super Adaptoid. It took me about a minute to beat that boss, and that was right at the end. And the thing is, it has nothing to do with the story. It's not like he's built up throughout the story. It's not like he has any lines of dialogue. It's a big thing to fight at the end of the story, and it's as much of a character as the warbot planes that you've been fighting, the adaptoids that you've been fighting through the story throughout the main campaign. It's as much of a character as those. So I don't actually count it as like a comic book character put in the comic, or put in the game. It's just a big robot. It's just a big robot. It's a fun fight, but it's just a big robot. And with so many people complaining about the main complaint that I've had from people that I've actually talked to about the game is there's so much potential, there's so much stuff to take from Marvel Comics, and to take from this massive pool of characters, and they chose this really niche character that barely anyone's heard of. If you have heard of him, you'll probably just be like, oh, but you fight adaptoids anyway during the course of the game as a whole, and they're the most annoying things in the game to fight, and you're making one of them a boss, and you're making it the difference between this and the regular adaptors that you fight is it's bigger, and it's got a hammer and it's got a shield, and that's it. That is it. There's no other differences between it, and it's cool having a new thing to fight, but I just think it's a bit lazy. It screams of being a little bit lazy. Anyways, that is it for my kind of rundown on the Kate Bishop update. Overall, I really liked the update. Despite all of the things that I said that were negative, and despite kind of having a tone of wanting more, that comes from me seeing how much potential is in this game, and how much there's such a great game in Marvel's Avengers, and that's why I haven't given up on it yet. It's because the core gameplay and the core combat system is really good. The story is really good. The voice acting and the actual way the characters bounce off each other is perfect. If there was concentration on that more than the post-game stuff, which there isn't actually that much concentration on that either, it's just, here's a thing to do, get your characters leveled up, here's a really here's really big numbers. Are you happy yet? That kind of thing is something that I hate, and it screams of, like, even the way that the game is actually built, like with the three super attacks at the bottom right of the screen. It screams of mobile game. It screams of mobile game, and I hate to say that, and I mean it in like the best way possible, but they really need to treat this like, they need to treat the story they need to treat the post-game stuff as, like, it's an extension of the story, and that's what it is. It's not like the story is an extension of the post-game stuff, and the story is literally just a vehicle to get you into the post-game stuff. And that's the kind of thing that I hope there's more of in the next update, because it looks like they're going to be putting way more effort into that one, and way more time is going to go into that one. And then when Black Panther comes and they're going to bring in Wakanda, I hope that is massive. I really hope that is massive, because that's what this game needs. It needs a massive overhaul of content. It needs a really big drop that puts a new character in, that puts like at least 3 new bosses in, that puts like a whole new area to explore in, and puts in different types of missions, and has you playing a story that is a decent length. I don't want to be over it in 2 streams. I don't want to be over it in 2 streams. I want it to be impossible to get the story content of like one of the drops of Marvel's Avengers. I want it to be impossible to do that in 1 stream. I want it to be impossible to do that in 1 stream. And with this, I could have got it done. I could have sat and done it in 1 stream, in 1 4-hour stream. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.